So an age-old expression is only the bookmaker wins. That's the only way that you could ever win with betting, is by being the bookmaker. So how could you be the bookmaker, and how does a bookmaker make money? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So in order to be a bookmaker, you need to create a market. You need to create a betting market. And the reason that you would do that is you're going to lay odds into that market that people will bet against. They're going to bet against you. You create the market. You create the odds. So let's take a really simple example of creating a set of odds. And for that, what we're going to do is use a coin. So you know that if I toss a coin, barring any oddities, the market, or the coin rather, in this case, but it is the market that we're going to be talking about, will actually end up on heads 50% of the time and tails 50% of the time. So we know that there's a 50-50 chance that it's going to end up head or tails. So how do we price that in a set of odds? Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to use decimal odds, because that's how the exchanges are priced. The exchanges are priced in decimal odds. So let's do that. We know that there's a 50-50 chance of that coin being a heads or a tails. So if we do 1 divided by 0.5, the 0.5 represents the 50-50 chance of it being heads or tails. What do we get if we do that? 1 divided by 0.5 equals 2. Bingo, there you go. We have a market. We can say that the market for heads is 2 and the market for tails is 2. And the way to assess how efficient and how good a market is from a betting perspective is to do the opposite calculation. So if you see a market priced at 2, if you do 1 divided by 2, then it adds up to 0.5. So if we had a market with 2 runners in it, priced at odds of 2 on the exchange, if we do 1 divided by 2 and add those 2 up, it equals 1, or a 100% chance that either of those selections is going to win this particular market. So in the case of our coin toss, what's actually going to happen is we have heads priced at 2 and we have tails priced at 2, and if we add them both together, that equals 100%. And what that tells us is that there's a 100% chance of the coin being heads or tails. So in those terms, there's no margin lost to either side of the book. The backers can back something with a 100% chance, and the layer, in this case the bookmaker who's making the market and the book, can lay into the market at odds of 2, 100%. He's not making any money either. So that's a perfect market. There's no margin on either side. Now, if we're a bookmaker, one of the things that we're going to do is we want to make money from the backers. So you are the backer. So if we were looking at our coin toss market, if I go into the market and offer you odds of 2 on a heads or 2 on a tail, then basically I'm never going to make any money, because over the very, very long term, we would expect heads and tails to equal out, and I'm going to pay out 100% of my money for 100% probability. So in fact, there's no advantage in me doing that. However, I could say to you, okay, we've had 5 heads in a row, therefore the chance of a head is going to occur more frequently on the next toss. I could convince you that that is the case. That's complete rubbish, but I could convince you that that is the case, and therefore I'm only going to offer you odds of 1.5. What happens if I offer you odds of 1.5? What am I actually offering you when I'm offering odds of 1.5? Well, if we go and do that little bit of maths again, and we do 1 divided by 1.5, it comes out at 0.66666666 recurring. In other words, what I'm saying more or less is that it's got a 67% chance of occurring. Now that's nonsense, because a coin has a 50% chance of being a heads or a tails. So if I offer you odds of 1.5, there's absolutely no reason that you would choose to take those odds, because I'm offering you odds of 66% chance of something occurring when it's only got a 50% chance. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But people do this all of the time in betting markets. People will back something despite the fact that the odds just don't stack up. So when you're backing in a market, you want to get the highest odds that you possibly can. And when you're laying, you want to get the lowest possible odds to lay at, because doing either of those two things is how you make money in the long term on a betting market. If we went into a market and we could back heads or tails at 1.5, we would lose money hand over fist to the person that's pricing that market. However, if we could go into the market and back heads or tails at odds of 3, then we could effectively buy the chance of the coin being heads or tails for a 66% chance, giving us 30% margin. If we back it at odds of 1.5, the margin goes in the other direction, and it's actually the layer that has the margin within that particular market. So when you look at a market and you see the odds, that's effectively telling you the chance that something is likely to occur. The layers want you to take the lowest odds possible, but as a backer, you want to be able to take the highest odds possible. So let me show you a practical example of this. And if you go into BetAngel, fire up the bookmaking tab, and I've chosen a market here at the weekend, Newcastle v Huddersfield. You can see the market is super efficient here. It's priced at 100.1. That means if you're backing into this market, you're only losing 0.1% to the other side of the book. Traditionally a bookmaker, but in this market, the layers on the other side of the market. You can see it's super efficient. There's almost no edge to a layer in this particular market at these particular odds. So if I was a bookmaker, that would obviously be completely unacceptable to me, and the best way of creating margin is to change the pricing. So if I go over to the manual area here, I can actually reduce the price on each one of these, and you can see the book percentage starts to rise. So that's how I would make margin on this particular game. So what I did was I nipped out quickly and went to my local bookmaker to find out what odds they were offering within this particular market. And according to the odds that I picked up on the coupon, they were offering 4 to 5 on Newcastle, which is decimal odds of 1.8. On the draw, they were offering 12 to 5, which is decimal odds of 3.40. And on Huddersfield, they were offering 13 to 5. Which is decimal odds of 3.6. So can you see there, slight difference between the margin that you lose at the bookmaker and the amount that you lose on the exchange. You can see here that if you bet on the exchange, you almost lose nothing to the other side of the book because you've got a very competitive market. But if we went into our local bookmaker and placed a bet there, you can see that they're asking for nearly 13% margin on this particular game. Now they are actually, give them credit, they are fairly competitive on Newcastle. So it's not a ridiculous proposition on Newcastle, you suspect, because you think that probably the exchange is full of smart money and they probably have that price right. But it's undoubted that these prices will change as we head into the weekend and the market adjusts for new information. But you can see they're pretty uncompetitive on the remaining selections, and very uncompetitive when we go for the away win. So there's absolutely no way that you would back an away win here, but maybe you would be able to get a decent price at the bookmaker if you were backing just Newcastle. So yeah, anyway, there's a practical example of what a book looks like on an exchange and how a bookmaker prices their margin into the market.